Let's tell you a bit about that breaking news coming to us here to Rise. Embattled Prime Minister Boris Johnson has lost two top cabinet ministers in short succession just moments ago. Chancellor of the Exchequer Rishi Sunak, the nation's top finance minister, has resigned, along with Health Secretary Sajid Javid, also considered a cabinet heavyweight. The news comes as Johnson is accused of overlooking the accusations of sexual misconduct of a top party official and raises further questions over the longevity of his premiership. Now, Rise correspondent Laurie Laird joins me now to discuss this breaking news. Laurie, tell us more about these pretty major, significant resignations in Boris Johnson's cabinet.
Significant doesn't even understate it. These are the two, the Health Secretary Sajid Javid and the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the top finance minister Rishi Sunak. If you want two ministers in your court, it is these two. Losing the confidence of these two. These are really the heavyweights of the heavyweights in the cabinet. And they're both reasonably popular. Rishi Sunak's lost his way a little bit, but they are popular people. They're thought of as leaders. To lose them really does raise the question of how long can this government limp on? It's been limping on for a while now.
Sure.
Boris Johnson won a confidence vote, but in some ways he lost because he really didn't have the support of much of the party, only 41%. How long can he go on? And this isn't just a UK story, Anil. Boris Johnson gets worldwide attention. He is the head of the government that sits at the center of the Commonwealth. He is a war leader. People are looking to him for the UK defences. So it's not just a UK story.
And let's talk about why Boris Johnson finds himself in this position today. Why has he lost the support of two cabinet ministers today when the cabinet stood by him with Partygate, these by-election defeats? What has changed the calculus today?
I think it really is. Sorry about the cliche, it is the proverbial straw. There have been so many incidents of poor judgment and such poor judgment and judgment on things that have nothing to do really with the day-to-day life of people in the UK. Partygate, where he was found to have broken lockdown rules that he made. People were fairly disgusted about that. He managed to keep his place, but there have been so many issues of misjudgment, standing by ministers who were found to have granted from their position in terms of government contracts, standing briefly by a minister who was found watching pornography in the Commons. 3 ministers have been dismissed for sexual misconduct. And now we have an MP, a member of parliament, who was also the deputy chief whip. The chief whip is responsible for the integrity of the parliamentary party. Just a couple of days ago, this man, who sadly is called Pincher, was accused of groping men in a very elite men's club in central London. Now, that came to light. There was lots of talk of investigations. He resigned his post as deputy chief whip, but over the past couple of days, it's become clear that these aren't the first allegations. There are allegations that go back to 2017. Boris Johnson was made aware of these. At first, he said he was not made aware of them. There's now so much evidence that he's had to backpedal and said, yeah,
so it's the cover-up once again.
It's the cover-up once again, and it certainly feeds into this this feeling that many people in the UK have, is that there's one rule for us and one rule for these people. None of this is over a matter of policy. This is all about very, very poor judgments.
Now, as you said, Boris Johnson survived a vote of no confidence not too long ago. Now, tell us where we are in terms of, could his own MPs force another vote of no confidence?
We're into a little bit of a grey area here, and that is the question, isn't it? What is next? Now, the rules say that there is that within the party, the Conservative Party, there isn't the scope to bring another no confidence vote for another year after the last one. That would seem to support Johnson for another 11 months. But there is a new executive being elected from what's called the 1922 committee. And these are ministers, most of the ministers, most of the MPs, rank and file MPs, who don't hold a ministerial position. They have a lot of sway over the non-ministerial bit of the party. They are meeting to elect a new executive council next week. And there's a lot of talk that they may vote in members who would like to change those rules. And in fact, the head of that committee during that confidence vote said he was not averse to changing those rules. So we could see some change to party rules that may hasten another no confidence move.
And just reading the resignation letter from Rishi Sunak, he says the public expect government to be conducted properly, competently and seriously. Sajid Javid, the Health Secretary, who's also quit, tells the PM he can no longer in good conscience continue serving in this government. Are we watching the collapse of the UK government in front of our very own eyes?
Absolutely. I think what these ministers are trying to do is to get Johnson to go on his own. Johnson has said that he has no intention.
But there's no evidence in his whole political career for him to leave on matters of integrity. He'll have to go out kicking and screaming out of number 10 Downing Street.
Absolutely, and if you let me go out on a limb, there is a great deal of disappointment amongst voters with Boris Johnson, but to a certain extent, they know what they voted for. We know what we voted for. Boris Johnson was a journalist. He was found to have fabricated much of his information. He did a very poor job as a foreign secretary, got tripped up in policy. So you're right, this is not out of character, and I think that he was a popular figure, and I think people had forgiven him for one or two, but it is just a column, a never-ending cycle of, again, issues of very poor judgment.
And obviously, all eyes will be on the markets tomorrow morning. We know that, for example, someone like President Zelensky has always spoken about how Boris Johnson and the UK have been steadfast in their support. Can he count on that amongst his own cabinet members saying, look, I'm popular with President Zelensky, I need to stay on to help him, or does that not matter anymore?
It's a good question, and Boris Johnson has made much of that. He really has tried to elevate himself as a war leader, the only head of government to have gone to Ukraine not once but twice, and it feels like he's trying to burnish his reputation there. Interesting about the markets, the UK economy is really struggling probably more than any other large developed economy. The pain for Boris Johnson in terms of policy decisions is down the road. These are ethical problems, but there will be social problems, political problems, economic problems to come. Kind of makes you think, who would want the job after him? And maybe that has slowed down a race to replace him, because I certainly wouldn't want to be UK Prime Minister right now.
I was going to say, is that perhaps why it's taken so long for emerging candidates, because they can see the pain down the road and the cost of living crisis,
which is only going to get worse. And I think a lot of ministers would have liked to have taken a step back and waited for that to play out. You have to look at Sajid Javid. He's been a little bit quiet as he's been Health Secretary. He was a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, well respected in that role.
He also stood as leader in the last leadership election.
He did indeed didn't do that well, but he's been a little bit unassociated with this government. He may be the bookie's favorite when we get down to a leadership challenge.
It's going to be fascinating to see who indeed will, if Boris Johnson is replaced as UK Prime Minister. Laurie Laird, thanks so much.
Pleasure.